This episode is brought to you by Audible.com. In order to get a free audiobook trial download, go to audibletrial.com/bonfireside chat. For listeners of this program, I would recommend downloading A Cursed Idol that will destroy your entire civilization.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a cursed favorite.
Yes. And here we are today to talk about Kingsfield 4, the Ancient City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about Kingsfield 4, Cole?
Seems like a real weird one. Wasn't that game that came out around the time that the PlayStation 2 launched and it was panned by critics?
You mean Eternal Ring?
You mean the bouncer?
Yeah. Do you mean Fantavision?
Yeah.
Do you mean every PS2 launch title?
Do you mean Shadow of Fate?
Yeah. Not Eternal Ring. What's the other one? The other From one?
Oh.
They did 2 launch games. It was something I Have It. I can't remember the name. It doesn't matter.
No,
From was big in launching for the PS2.
Yes, they were.
For some reason.
I guess it's a little bit after the launch. It looks like a launch game. But yeah. So we're talking about Kingsfield because this is widely acknowledged to be the real spiritual predecessor, along with the Shadow Tower games, to the Souls series. So we are continuing our Origins chapter of this show about the Souls games, right?
Yeah, and we couldn't just keep going to other medias and just kind of, what books did he like, and what, we could have just kept doing that, but we like games.
Yep.
And obviously this is going to have the kind of the most DNA because the Ludo kind of part of it comes over, borrows a lot from this.
Yeah. So we had the option to do any of the first 3 Kingsfield games. The first one probably would have been a little bit tricky. But 2 and 3, or 1 and 2 as they're known here in a Final Fantasy 4/2 scenario, they all tell a story across 3 games, but 4 is kind of its own self-contained thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And being on the PS2, it is the most friendly kind of UI and control and graphically and musically of them. I have American 2, and I played American 1 a long time ago. So I'm kind of planning on doing a deep dive on the series eventually, but the amount that we will discuss the rest of the entries in the series is going to be kind of limited, and it's mostly going to come up in the 4th episode of this series.
Right.
So we'll kind of touch on them at the very least.
Definitely. And there have been a lot of people who've come out and said, like, hey, check out Shadow Tower. That's definitely a huge thing. Never came out in America, and I'm a dum-dum and don't know how to get the fan translation to work. So... Yeah,
eventually I would eventually like to do that. It looks Kingsfield as hell.
Yeah,
and same thing with the Eternal Ring. Like I'm going to I'm gonna try that. That actually I think is a variation of this engine.
Okay.
For this, and it looks it's like lighter. It's not quite as oppressive, but it looks like it controls and has some of the same kind of thematic issues. But I haven't played it yet. So.
Yeah. So, as I kind of alluded to, this came out in around like early 2002, like this time of year, actually, like March time. And it was published. From had a lot of trouble up through Demon Souls finding publishers for their stuff over here. It was put out by ASCIIware. By doing a Google search on ASCIIware, it's not clothing that just has, Unicode symbols on it. This is the company that most notably, according to Google, brought us the SNES Advantage joystick controller.
Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah, helps you play Street Fighter. Helps you play Kingsfield. ASCIIware. And that name. Go with it. It's the future.
Cut and print.
ASCIIware. But yeah, it's an oddity. There's also a lot of weird things with the way that this was localized. So in different countries, so the PAL version has totally different names for things. Like it was translated differently depending on the version. Mm-hmm. So the North American version that we played, Atlas used a lot of people from the like the message boards, the Kingfield community, and name the characters after them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
You said Atlas. It should be ASCIIware. Although I can understand your aversion to saying ASCIIware.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. No, it's cool.
But in the PAL version, they use totally different names, and it actually changed the kind of the lore and make less sense. There's like entries on the GameFAQs message board of people who are from those original Kingsfield fan boards explaining to our European brothers what actually happens in the ancient city, because they can kind of conflux characters, like they take two characters and kind of merge them, which is really confusing. And
like in the textual references, or they actually merge them and get rid of a couple.
They get rid of the big thing is, and there's no real spoilers. Right. That's going on. Muya, what's the name of the guy? The ancient hero. Yeah, Mew. And then the Swordmaster are considered the same character.
Weird. Yeah, that's a pretty big difference.
And it's not like the story is that direct or easy to follow anyway.
Or matters.
So just imagine it. Yeah, or matters. And that's one of the things we'll talk about when we kind of get into some generalities and differences and similarities. But it's just kind of it's a weird oddity, and but we both really liked it.
Yeah, I thought that it was I thought that it was weird that all the NPCs were named like Ryan Thompson. You know, like real whitey white, like not middle, not Middle Ages sounding at all. And when I read that story, I thought, that's actually kind of cool and weird, because they didn't tell any of those people that they were doing that.
Yep. How fun would that be?
Like to play the game and freak out.
I mean, it's different because they obviously knew it, but it reminds me of when you play Shadowrun Returns, since it was a Kickstarter game, and one of the Kickstarter rewards was to have a picture in the game. Like, you end up getting a lot of missions and running into Shadowrunners that are just these ridiculous neckbeards, like Fedora Lord, like neckbeards, who are huge in the tabletop game. But it's like, why am I running into this character who's like this unsightly? In a video game.
To be fair, I feel like cyberpunk is a speculative fiction which was invented primarily to make it so those people would have worth in a fantastical society, right?
It's true, but there's a huge difference. Like it's so jarring when you see somebody from the real world version of that than the future speculative fiction version of it. It's amazing. I want to find like just a gallery of all the NPCs of that and look at them side by side and just pick out the Kickstarter backers.
Yeah, like use some kind of fuzzy tin eye search to find the actual reference photo from the dude's Facebook.
Yeah, just him. And he's wearing the gear and stuff. Like, they're always wearing a leather hat and like have a katana on their shoulder. Ugh. And those weren't added by the artist of the game. I think that's just like, I'm going to pose for my Shadowrun picture. Break out the old katana.
Yep.
Break out Bessie.
Which one for my wakizashi should I grab?
Yeah, exactly.
Daimyo? I don't know. Daimyo something. Fuck. But yeah, so rather than talk about like Anna and Kingsfield do this, like let's use Dark Souls and Demon Souls as a reference point and talk about why they're similar and different.
Yeah, and this will shed more light on why we're doing it. Yeah. So a big thing, kind of the central plot thrust of the ancient city shares a lot with the Souls games, and that it's kind of an accursed sealed land, and there is a corrupting presence that has been sealed away.
Yeah.
So in the in the ancient city, it is this like land of like the dark people, the dark ones, that were put away by the forest folk at some point.
Yeah.
And but that's obviously has a parallel to Boletaria or Lordran. Really.
Specifically Ulysses, right?
Yeah. There's tons of kind of Artorias of the Abyss parallels. When I first found the New Londo ruins, like when you find the drowned city, and I'm just like, oh shit, okay, they drowned the city to seal an evil. I gotcha.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's where you learn that. I learned it by looking at you, Dad.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kingsfield 4, Dad. So the storytelling is pretty minimal and often indirect. I feel like it's a little foggier trying to draw connections from where you find stuff. Like, there's a lot of things that I totally missed because I either wasn't paying close enough attention. But like, I found this sword on this dude, and this dude was totally the sword master. Bleh. Right?
Yeah. It's and in general, the storytelling is like they're telling it in the same way where there are a lot of disconnected pieces. I feel like the connective tissue is weaker, and some of that could be the actual translation issues. Because it was so done so weirdly, and it could also be that they just didn't give as much a shit about it. But like, as much as I think I like the story of Kingsfield 4, it is not, when talking about the Souls games, if I'm going to talk about them, the play is probably going to be the number one thing I'd recommend, and then I would talk about how awesomely it tells a story and how cool the story is. For Kingsfield 4, I wouldn't necessarily laud it for that. It's similar, but you can see them kind of gaining, expertise.
Yeah. And, it's really just an excuse for skeletons, right?
Yeah, and they're plenty.
Yeah.
And one thing I just want to throw this out there, and I think this is true of you as well, but as a disclaimer, is that we have a certain level of authority on the Souls games. I'm not, we're no Vadis Vidya. I guess would be the proper plural for that.
Yeah.
We're no Vadis Vidya, but I think we know those games pretty well. I can't make that claim for this game. I played through it once and I missed things. So, we're relying on the audience to let us know what we missed.
Yeah, definitely. So, I'll say it up front. Usually we put it at the end, but that is Duckfeed.tv/contact. If we're just flagrantly wrong about something, or we're missing some kind of huge obvious connection, please let us know. Because the best thing about doing the show is that our audience is really, really, really smart. Right?
Yeah, and you guys will know. Super fans of this game will know it. Like, we are both dipping a toe. So, and treat us, we'll treat the show as such, and you treat us as such.
Yeah.
As far as, what we're gonna bring to the table as far as expertise. So.
Yeah. So, aside from the storytelling being minimal, there's this. Go ahead.
There's a kind of a large interconnected world, and you can progress through it non-linearly. There are no set levels or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which is something that more Dark Souls takes more than Demon Souls, which has its kind of finite stages. But this was something that really impressed me with it. And if I had played this when it came out, I would have been very impressed. Like kind of the shortcut structure is similar. Like, you will double back on yourself and find ways to get back to where you began. And the whole world becomes easier to traverse as you go.
Yeah. And because the entire structure of this city or land or whatever is around a tower, it has a little bit of that verticality that Dark Souls has that I just love so goddamn much. Yeah. And I really appreciate that about this game. Yeah. You know what? It's almost kind of Metroid-y to a certain extent, specifically because of the locked door structures. So as you find like the Forest Folk key or the Earth Folk key, you have this backtracky ness to it, which I never got like as much of a Metroid note from Dark Souls as I got from this.
Yeah, when I first saw that, it's a priest key, I thought Resident Evil, but it doesn't really play that way. Yep. Resident Evil doesn't really do it since you're not going to spend much time backtracking. Metroid's a much better comparison.
Yep.
For that.
Yep. And also, since we're talking about the exploration, this is a really slow game. Like,
in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Like,
you move really slow. You turn crazy slow,
excruciatingly slow.
Yeah.
Like, amazing. Like, that's got to be put off more people off this game than anything.
Yeah, the controls are no great shakes.
Yeah, they do the job once you master them. Like, I felt good about it.
Yeah, you just have to. But for me, the big thing was getting comfortable with strafing.
Yeah. And you're playing it. It doesn't. There's not dual stick.
Yeah.
Kind of look in a traditional sense. So you're using shoulder buttons, and which is the way I played Deus Ex on PS2. So it took me a little while to get back into that. But it's also just your movement speed is so slow. Turning around will probably bring that up when it fucks us over. The times that it has, because it is literally, I think it's like a full 12 seconds to do a 360.
So 1/5 of a minute.
Yeah, to do a 360. So it's just insane. And then the other thing is just there's a slow pacing to the play too. So you're doing, large spots of exploration where there aren't really enemies, and then places that are more dense with kind of action.
Yeah.
It has a really nice ebb and flow to it that reminds me a lot of the Souls games.
It's a meander, right? Yeah.
Yep. The combat is about managing stamina and distance, the same way that Dark Souls is, and even kind of more so here. Like there's kind of a set way to take on almost every enemy in the game. There are a few of them that mess with the formula, but it kind of doing an attack and backing away or getting to a blind spot is going to serve you really, really well. and then kind of to balance. And you can't because you have the stamina meter, so you cannot just spam anything, including magic.
So long to learn.
Yeah. Yep.
like why are my shots bouncing off of this potato bug, and why is it making a metal noise? Like before I put two and two
this
together,
club is making a metal noise on this potato bug. Neither of which things are metal. But, yeah. That's just the game telling you to chill out a little bit, take it a little slower.
Physics and chemistry are timey-wimey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you have to get there's definitely it enforces that rhythm. It's so rhythmic as you wait for stuff to recharge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and as you get and it adds a factor, like you have some agency over that recharge meter based on how heavy your weapon is, and as you get stronger, it will go up quicker. And that stuff's really fun too. Like a lot of the fun, kind of switching for different weapons to different for different situations in this game, and just kind of, do I want to be able to attack faster or harder? Is another Souls thing. Yeah, that you're going to be doing. So,
and this one, equipment is far more important than levels, just like in Dark Souls and Demon Souls. So you're going to gain so much more. I would say armor is really important in this as well.
Oh yeah. More important than it is in either of those other games, right? In either of the Souls games, I think.
Yeah, just because dodging is so not a thing.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. and you can't block,
right?
Since you can't actually put up a shield. So
shields are pretty much cosmetic.
Yep. Yeah, or they add to your armor.
Oh, true.
But that's it's a passive increase. It's the same thing as a helmet. Armor is huge, and the jumps you get are really big.
Yeah.
And that's true of weapons too. And then I guess that's, semi-true of the Souls games, even though you can start out with a knight armor, which is, perfectly, the Souls games, there's kind of no better armor. Here there's a clear progression. You wear the heaviest thing that you can afford to wear.
Right.
And there's no reason ever not to. And kind of finally, there are actually direct references. So From Software is kind of famous for doing this. And, just we'll comment on these as we come to them, but, the first NPC you meet is a crestfallen warrior, which is just that they love crestfallen warriors. And the Moonlight Sword, this is the origin of that, or the Kingsfield games, which is in Demon Souls and Dark Souls. And several other just kind of, direct one-to-one references.
Yeah, New Londo, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, Snake Man.
Snake Man, definitely. I forgot. I kind of almost forgot about the Witta.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so there's some differences. Obviously, the first-person perspective is a real big deal in this, and that kind of makes the game far more claustrophobic, along with, the environments are more claustrophobic in general. It's a lot of corridors in this. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some of the technical things that lend to this feeling that I actually end up really appreciating. So, the draw distance isn't huge. You're very rarely under an open sky for the second half of the game. And then being, in first person, it's very immersive. You feel like I felt the claustrophobia of the character a lot more than I ever have. And, with a third person camera, claustrophobia is just going to get you killed.
Yeah.
The places in Dark Souls that, are really tight and kind of in, it's much trickier. Yeah. Here, doing it, it lends itself to that kind of bleak, I'm actually in this and everything is pressing down on me feeling.
Did you feel
this game evokes really well?
Did you feel in this that you were better able to use your environment to your advantage? Because I definitely found myself being able to maneuver in these tight corridors to get an advantage in combat. Make them sink that attack into a corner so I could peek back out and land one of my own.
I wouldn't say necessarily better, but I definitely had that sense of that. So it's so different though when you're not because you're thinking of it tactically rather than reflex based. Having no ability to dodge really means that, and I don't consider that to be an overall strength of the game necessarily. Right. I would have liked to have been able to move out of the way, especially for some of the bosses that can seriously go fuck their own dicks. There's some
dicks. with the urethral sound.
Yeah, exactly. With that shaped like a tiny penis. Yeah, I'm sure they make those. Don't search that. I bet you that's true. But the so it was a tactical kind as opposed to Dark Souls, which is very reflex based, especially once you start, you do some no shield runs
Yeah.
It is very much just kind of a reaction time. Reaction time is like kind of not a factor.
No.
In this game, like
compared to Souls, it's like turn based almost.
Yeah, exactly. This is the midpoint between Dark Souls and Masters of Orion 2.
and Wizardry.
And Wizardry, yes, Kingsfield.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, straddling the fence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In addition, there are save points instead of auto saving, and so this obviously has a huge impact.
Yeah.
You can try something as many times as you want without losing progress. Mm-hmm. Enemies don't respawn. I was really surprised for some reason after I saved when enemies didn't respawn.
Me too.
Just
well, why would they? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's not how video games work. But I was just expecting it. Mm-hmm. They don't. So that changes the way that you approach challenges.
Yeah.
Again, in both ways. Like it's nice to be able to try something over and over without risk. You miss the Dark Souls. Like I've lost all my souls and I've lost my blood stain. Let's just do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah.
Feeling like you have nothing to lose feeling in Dark Souls. I really like.
Yeah.
And that doesn't, it's not as special here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I am embarrassed to say how much in the early going I just didn't save and lost a lot of progress.
Yeah, because you're not used to it. Like,
yeah.
I did my best to try to get into that habit, and but I also found that when that happened to me, the knowledge compressing space of Dark Souls kicked in. Yeah. So like making up my progress was so much faster than going through it the first time.
Yeah. And finally, people who know the game systems better than I do could disagree with this, but there's very little in the way of builds, and that kind of has to do with the levels being more important than armor. So you have two stats that generally go up when you play, just kind of in a Final Fantasy II-esque fashion, which is your physical attack and your magical attack, and you get a little bit of advantage that rewards the way that you play. But like in general, there is not an awful lot of equipment that does different stuff. It's either are you using your wrist slot for the clarity bracelet or are you not?
Yeah. You're dumb, or you're trying to get into the Widow Palace.
Yeah, yeah. So there are different weapons and which combat speed you're working with, and that's similar to like, okay, what kind of weapon am I do I like the Zweihander or the Claymore because I like the moveset better, to a certain extent. Like you're making those choices, but like that doesn't have too huge of an impact on the way that you play as compared to like I'm doing a Dex Faith build versus a no shield strength run.
Yeah,
right?
And it also has to do with the fact that every time you level up, you're not making a choice.
Yeah.
So you're not, and that's I am usually not in favor of that, in general terms. So yeah, exactly. Like I'm going to equip the strongest thing I have because why wouldn't I at any given time?
Yeah.
Like it's your progress. What little control you have over your character is contained entirely by how much exploration you're willing to do. So the equivalent of building a character in this game is just being very diligent about finding hidden shit. Mm-hmm. So you have kind of more options, but it's not nearly to the same degree.
Here's another difference. This game hides its shit so well. Like until you get Mew's amulet, you're just kind of like walking around the edges of every room, pressing the X button, trying to see if the door opens.
Or Wolfenstein hidden walls. Yeah, you just hump the wall until it bears its treasure to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some things can be hidden in plain sight too. There are several like just swords lying in the ground in a patch of ground that looked like a regular patch of ground that were difficult, and that could be my color blindness coming in. But yeah, things are super hidden. Yeah,
and maybe a bigger difference too. This game was not received well at all. Whereas
people don't like this game.
No, they don't. Any of them really. I think that like to a certain extent they're a little bit vindicated by history because of the Souls series, and people are like rediscovering them. Maybe, but there are like a bunch of people who were there all along who really like them. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been 4 of them. But like it's got like a 56% on game rankings, right? Which is dismal.
Yeah, that's really low. It's and it's a cult series, which is like the Souls games. Demon Souls could have been a cult game, like a pretty successful one. But if Dark Souls hadn't come out, Demon Souls might have just been obscure, and not kind of had. But now Dark Souls is a huge hit. The hype and marketing machine for Dark Souls 2 is just through the roof, and now it's really finding success. So it could have been like this. This is probably not as good a game as either of those two games, or as successful. Yeah. But I don't think it deserves the negative reputation it has.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So we're breaking this game up into 4 episodes, as we kind of alluded to at the beginning. This first one is going to be about the run up to the central tower, which leads into the level structure of the game, right? Mm-hmm. So This is the Cursed Lands, as it's referred to in the journal. Yes. Yeah, and then you got the impression that it was officially known as this, which is, seems like a marketing mistake. Some of the naming conventions of these places are pretty goofy. Yeah. And in general, it's just not very tight. Nope. As far as that stuff goes, like things don't, even I know what they're trying to do, where it's like this is not going to be a specific thing, but we just want to capture your imagination with a suggestion. But instead of things sounding like intriguing and cool, oftentimes they just sound dumb. Yeah. In this game, and it's just like, okay, that seems silly, and that discourages you from wanting to do the kind of lore hunting and story picking that we usually want to do. Mm-hmm. Even though there's some stuff there, but like, just concentrating on atmosphere and play was much more satisfying because of, those little touches like they didn't have. Yeah, if you take a softer focus to it, it's much more satisfying. Yeah, I think that's what the idea is, that you're just kind of supposed to relax your mind.
The cursed land lies deep in a dense, colorless forest. Hidden within this land is an ancient city, once known to the forest folk as the Holy Land. Buried in the depths of the city, a warning was discovered long after the rulers have fallen. Grave misfortune will befall those who behold the idol that stares into the darkness. The idol, taken from the ancient land, led the kingdom down a path of destruction. The idol must be returned. Under a dark and cloudy sky, the Swordmaster led his men to the ancient land. The cursed land swallowed the soldiers, and all that remained was dark silence. So they kind of setting in motion our agency. The king of Helidon is given this idol, this cursed idol, as a gesture of peace. And, he loves it, and, it seems like, oh, great, I love idols. Really hey, free idol. Really ties the throne room together. Yeah, exactly. Like, listen, I'm not going to turn down a free idol. Yeah. Like, and that's true. I just want to say that I'm not speaking about the game at this point. Like, if anybody has an idol, cursed or otherwise, that you'd like to mail me, feel free. What about a Billy idol? I'll take it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm tired of dancing with myself. Yeah. It's the original Cyberpunk. Yeah. That album cover. So as soon as he gets the idol, the kingdom starts falling to ruin, and his sages say, "You know what? The idol is actually the idol of sorrow, you idiot." There's a pretty tight correlation here between when you got that thing and when stuff started going to shit. Yep. Yeah. So he assembles this expedition with his swordmaster Septiego, his swordmaster, to return the idol back to its home. Yep. But so just to give it back. Just to take the monkey's paw back. But as monkey paws are wont to do, they don't like to be destroyed, right? Mm. So sometime later, a neighboring kingdom, Azalin, which none of this shows up in the game. Like, I don't know why it matters. No, well, some of it's in the intro, that weird, like the super weird deep voiced narrator too. I'm so glad that they opted for the lady voice in Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Me too. Yeah. But a mysterious wanderer comes back and says, "Yo, these other guys, they totally didn't do this. So you, Prince Devian, or Devian, Devian Art, that's his name. Art Devian is your character's name. You have to go and succeed where this legendary swordmaster failed. Also, the swordmaster is your buddy, and it's implied you want to figure out what happened to him, right? Which totally is that's a detail that came later. Oh yeah, they were just like, why is the prince? Why is he going to go? Yeah, that's like a world of power. A stranger's giving me an idol? No, I'm a prince, you idiot. But let's just make him friends with the other guy. Let's stack motivations on top of each other. Whenever you in a story, when you see somebody have two minor motivations to do a thing, that strikes me as a rewrite.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing.
It's the Worlds of Power version. It's Septiego and Artedivian in their hotel room eating pizza, and then ninjas come and kidnap Septiego and take him to the Cursed Land, and I gotta settle this. Yeah. So that's the plot, and that leads to you going through this big ass gate and into the Cursed Land, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so you've got this journal with you that when you go to new areas, you'll get kind of new entries on it, but they're not necessarily they're not the use of them is weird.
Right.
I referenced it because I was hungry for words about the game, and sometimes they're useful, but they're not useful in they're going to help you solve puzzles sense generally, or that they're well written or evocative.
There's very little flavor to it. It reads more like a D&D, here's maybe this kind of culture's ruins you can get at.
Yeah.
Description. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way that I, interpreted it.
Which in a way, it's okay, it's a journal. It's a guy writing to himself. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is just how the prince writes. That's not necessarily a bad idea, but it's strange from a player perspective.
Yeah. He was educated in Boletaria, so he's overly academic.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you're level 1 and you can't even fall down a well without
or Latrina.
Yeah, or walking on certain kinds of ground without dying, you idiot.
God. So. So that has to be just them just being fuckers, right?
Yeah.
Because you walk down this craggy, canyon wall, you think, oh, that has to be gravel, right? And there's no reason to avoid gravel.
It's not glowing.
Yep.
That patch of ground isn't glowing.
No.
I'm gonna step on it.
I'm dead. Fuck. I'm dead as fuck.
Yep. And the fact that it never comes up again, they're not teaching you anything other than that, that things like this can happen.
Yeah, it's just a straight dick punch is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And the key, and there's not tons of them even.
No.
I want to say it's setting the tone for the game, but this game is pretty fair.
Exactly.
It's a little bit like the pit in the beginning of Boletaria.
Oh, yeah.
Trap, soul pit. Mm-hmm. Even though that there's less reason to jump in a pit than there is to step on a slightly different patch of gravel. But it's almost, and then they don't really do things like that afterwards.
No, and unless the lesson that it's trying to teach you is pay attention. But that seems like a really harsh punishment. Unless they really wanted to be I'm going to hold your hand on the stove so you learn to avoid hot things.
But you don't know that it's hot. It'd be I'm going to hold your hand on this incredibly hot desk so to avoid hot things. I'm going to hold your hand on this incredibly hot shoe.
And I'm going to make you press this note on the piano that resolves the melody that I just played. Now you will know never to play the piano because any given key could be wired to dynamite.
Right, exactly. It's teaching you a lesson. The setup and the lesson does not match.
The answer. That's why you always leave a note.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if there was a note system, then that would be full of, try taking a step forward / the opposite of that. Yeah, exactly. And luckily it doesn't happen all the time. If this was just full of just traps you couldn't see in advance, I would like the game a lot less.
Yeah.
I think the other thing it could be communicating is just this is a hostile world. Mm-hmm. And I'll give it that. And since it's so close to the beginning of the game, you lose almost nothing for dying here. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Although I forget, I think I hadn't saved at this point yet. And so I might have had to sit through the opening cinematic again. I don't think
you can skip it.
You can? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Because I did the same thing.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So there are kind of two ways you can go here. Off to the left, there is the city ruins, which has the crestfallen guy. What are we going to call him? So there's the crestfallen warrior, crestfallen merchant. Is this the crestfallen deserter? Maybe.
Yeah. Because that's the sense you get from him.
Yeah.
And you're following it because you think you're going to a shop owned by David Bunch. And
or by
so
David
at first
Bunch.
I thought he was David Bunch.
Yeah. Or by the David Bunch, which is the weirdest gang name.
Hello. These are the Daves I know.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so you go left, you go down some stairs, and there's a crestfallen guy who's part of the expedition, and he gives you your first weapon, because you're not, when you're going into the ancient city of disaster or ruin, like, you're not going to bring anything. In fact, you're going to go naked, because the prince is real weird, and he can do whatever he wants.
Yes, he can. Like, you're going to go not only naked, but also with no corporeal body, according to the menu.
Yeah. It's a big floating, like, ghost soul.
Yep.
You're in soul form.
Oh, wow. That might actually be like a weird little interface cue.
That would be amazing. If there's any one other thing to support it. I guess you do hear voices, disembodied voices from time to time.
That's true.
So you get your club. You start out as a depraved, essentially.
Exactly. At least the depraved had a plank.
That's true, and a loincloth.
Yeah.
So
and a body. But you're in here, and this club is a real piece of shit. But
Yeah.
You're
in general terms, like the game is difficult, but it's only really difficult for the first couple hours. Mm-hmm. Like once you get some decent weapons, it really, like when it rains, it pours. Like once you start getting the elemental weapons, I think you're kind of I'm spoiled for choice. I'm constantly finding new weapons that are slightly better than my old one. Yeah. And same thing with armor. But initially, you're really scrapping for anything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and oh man, so it does have that Demon Souls, Dark Souls compression to the point where, like, it feels super long to cover the amount of ground that we're going to cover in this first episode. But then you realize, I spent 16 hours in the Undead Burg.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's actually, you can just, once you know the actual path, you can get through it super quickly.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it in an old episode and it showed up in the extra-sode. But yeah, like you asked if, before I realized how small the world was, if I was mapping it. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't doing that, but I was prepared to.
Yeah.
And, you really don't need to.
No.
It's a much smaller world than initially it lets on.
Mm-hmm. So. But yeah, that first person thing really, really threw me off though. I was in kind of this, wizardry.
It's easy to get turned around. Yeah, exactly. I found where it bothered me was when I wanted to, I need arrows. There's one guy who sells them. Like, how do I get back to the merchant who sells arrows?
Yeah.
That's where it bothered me. But just kind of for making progress, I was okay.
Yeah, it doesn't give you enough reason to tread that path, to where you'll learn it instinctually, right?
Yep, and there weren't, that's where the shortcut should lead back to, is immediately lead back to merchants. Mm-hmm. And it took me, kind of embarrassingly long amount of time to understand the teleporting system.
Yeah, me too.
In the game, even though it's not hard. And now that I get it, but it took a little while.
Yeah.
So just past the soldier, there's kind of this area that you get the idea is this was kind of a base camp for the expedition. Mm-hmm. They have, their flag is here. They have a chest here that you can't open just yet. And it's been overtaken by ravenous plants. But if you seek shelter inside the structure, which you're naturally going to do, you're going to run to your first save point, which for some reason is a Cthulhu. And I have no idea why that is.
Because Cthulhu.
Yeah, because
if the internet has taught us anything, if you take something that is mediocre and add Cthulhu to it, lol, just like with bacon.
Yeah, it is a lol bacon monkey ninja.
Yeah.
Keep calm and Cthulhu kind of experience saving your game in the Kingsfield 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that saves your game. I guess in the old Kingsfield, it took minutes to save your game.
Oh, I'm sure.
And this one, is much speedier. So when I've watched people play this online and everything, everyone's like, I wonder how long it's going to take to save my game this time, and it's relatively breezy.
Yeah.
So,
But this is kind of just your combat and exploration tutorial safe zone kind of thing. These plants don't do a whole lot of damage. You can take them out relatively quickly. And it has just enough texture to the exploration here. Like when you're walking up on the walls, you have the secret path over to one of the leather pieces of armor. And the wall collapses. So you recognize that there's a little bit of dynamism to this environment.
Yep, and where it collapses, there is a hidden item on top of a ruined structure.
Yep.
It's showing you that. It's kind of showing you, the kind of things you can expect. It's a pretty cool tutorial zone, actually.
Yeah.
Without any kind of demarcation that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. And then it also has the well.
Except for the well, which, is just a new trap. Even though it does have that, I wonder if I can go down there. Mm-hmm. And then when you can, it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
You just can't do it for a long time. And I thought, am I going to get boots of floating? Am I going to be able to fly? Mm-hmm. Nope. You just have to get strong enough to,
you just have to
suck it up.
Raise the denominator on your HP level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and also noteworthy, the plant creatures drop healing herbs.
Oh, yeah.
So that's hugely helpful. Like if you're grinding here, because eventually enemies do respawn. It just takes time, and I don't know the actual, the logic behind it.
It might be a Minecraft thing where you have to get a far enough distance away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they don't all respawn usually. Like a couple of them will respawn.
Yeah.
So I don't know what actually the logic is, but you can head over to a ruined bridge. There's an NPC there who is trapped on that side of the bridge. Who's not particularly informative, but really you're going to go downstairs into David Bunch's shop with super kickin' jaunty music.
Yeah.
And just want to throw out there how much I love the music in this game.
It's so good.
It's great.
I love the moodier tracks in Dark Souls and Demon Souls, but it's mostly bereft of music aside from Fethos Luzet.
Yep.
Yeah, but this is like just these weird PSX era almost.
Well, super cool instrument palette, like these weird mix of super fakey sounding synths or they're not meant to sound like an instrument, and then super fakey sounding like harpsichords.
Yeah.
And drums, like there'll be actual like snare drums and kind of rock drum hits and everything every once in a while.
One that's dun 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 dun.
Yeah, the triplets like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's got like that weird bongo kind of beat to it, or it's like riding the toms a little bit. Yeah,
Yep. It's great. Like it might be like, I mean, I like the music in the other Souls games. Like this might be out of the three that it's not a Souls game, but I might like the music in this game more.
Yeah.
Than those.
Yeah, I could totally understand that just because it is quirky. And it has more, I think, personality maybe. Like whereas Souls is pretty close to the Hans Zimmer Singularity if you think about it.
Well, I thought the Demon Souls music had more personality than the Dark Souls music. Yep. Like they're kind of moving away from they're kind of going to epic Viking choir from just kind of weird offbeat stuff. And when you have kind of an offbeat, slightly wrong world, like you can just doing these kind of weird instrument palettes really lends that effect.
Yeah.
So really like it.
Yeah. The weird thing about the shops in this game, you should not buy things at them. Aside from consumables that you can afford to get, you'll be very tempted to buy like a short sword or something here. But pretty much anything you could buy at a vendor, you're going to find maybe within 20 minutes of finding that vendor.
With only a few exceptions. So like magic crystals, you should buy when you see them, which is
wands,
rare.
Like there's like one merchant who sells a wand.
Yeah, you should buy unique things, and you should definitely buy consumables. But other than that, you are totally right.
Yeah,
like you will find better armor.
It takes like 5 hours of clocked play for money to not become an issue. Here you're kind of scrapping for every little bit you get. But yeah, consumables.
Essentially for healing herbs, which are not limited, which is great. And you pause the game when you use them. So it's another big Souls difference is that at any time you're able to heal up to full.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but there's some stuff you can do. No, there are no things you can do behind David Bunch's shop. Water is not something you can navigate.
You can go down there.
Oh, yeah,
you'll just
can't
drown.
come back up.
You can't come back up. There's a stairway on the left that you can go down to. If you fall in, though, it's hard to see, and you drown really quickly at this level. But I just didn't want to get attacked by anything because water is scary. So I was like, I bet you I come back here later. And then he's boarded up the back of his shop because he built it next to the catacombs.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Exactly.
So,
and he figures a couple planks will keep out the skeleton hordes.
Yeah, what a fucking weirdo he is.
Yeah.
And it works, though. And then there's also the really conspicuous chest surrounded by barrels.
Yep.
Just showing you, like, you'll eventually be able to smash barrels.
But right now, it's whatever pseudo-wudo from Pokemon is made of. It is. Yeah. It looks like it's wood, but it's metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but you just have to get a weapon that can do enough damage. You don't have access to that yet, and you won't until after the mines, which are on the other side of the ruins, right?
Yeah, the healing temple.
Yeah.
Which so you head the other way if you don't go down to David Bunch's shop, which I went to David Bunch first just because there was a sign that guided me. Like, that was the only thing, and that's a nice little touch. Mm-hmm. You go down there, you fight these pill bugs, these potato bugs that they'll show up in different elemental varieties throughout the game, and they're pretty cute. They look like the fire bugs from the Stonefang tunnels.
Yeah,
and yeah. Have you seen, just real quick? Did you see that plush giant isopod that's been making the rounds?
No, giant isopods really kind of freak me out.
Yes, they do, and as well they should. But in Japan, they made a hyper realistic plush one.
Oh god!
And it's not realistic, like the coloring isn't. It's all white. But it is very detailed.
So it's like some kind of albino fleshy giant isopod.
Yep, yeah, like a cave isopod, and it is it's super detailed though. Like every pocket of its skin is represented in plush.
Oh god!
And they're real creepy.
Yeah. So if you want to ruin a child.
Yeah, that's what my friend Zach put it on my Facebook wall, and that's what he said. Like, imagine having this as a child. Or I think the actual thing he just said, like, "Guh!" exclamation point, and then said that in the comment. Guh.
Guh. Yeah, no. Yeah, these things kind of freaked me out. Potato bugs, I don't know.
Yeah, well, these ones are kind of cute. Like, I still want a plush firebug from Stonefang, or one of these. I'd take it.
Yeah. A plush firebug that you can fill with firecrackers? Yeah.
Yeah, hey, or set on fire. Anyway, I want to destroy my toys.
Yeah. Off to the left, there's a little like side area where you get the short sword, and this is where combat started making sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, having a club and having it not be effective against these pillbug things, which are twice my size, or at least the size of smart cars, like made sense that like, it was going to bounce off of it, but then I correlated weapon performance with stamina. I was like, okay, cool, this makes sense to me.
Yeah. The amount of damage you do is tied to how full your stamina bar is. So yeah, and can the short sword can't break barrels yet, right?
No.
Okay. So this temple has a big empty fountain in front of it, which is semi-important. And there is a thief up inside, he's kind of weird. He's just kind of hanging out there. And there's spiders, and in this first area, and then you're also going to run into skeletons.
Yeah, behind a secret door, which is sweet.
Yep. And secret doors are the order of the day. As we said, you spend a lot of time humping the walls, which you should just kind of make it a practice to do, because that's where oftentimes the best weapons are hidden.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Also checking for bugs when you enter a new room, just to be sure.
Yeah.
By which I mean pill bugs. But yeah, that thief's name is Chad.
Yeah. Hello.
Sorry, I'm gonna say all these names in a white guy voice. So
they're probably white guys. Yep. Like, let's just be fair.
I don't mean to be normative, but they were on a Yahoo group in the early 2000s about Kingsfield.
Yeah, it's probably not the most diverse group in the world.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, off of this area, there's also a small cabin with kind of your first side quest / main quest. It's really important because it unlocks. Okay, it is a main quest because it gives you the ability to progress past the webs. But there's a young girl named Lynn who is there bored talking about her terminally ill mom, Cheryl, and saying that they are here to get life rock. Right?
Yes, which is so there's a fountain of life in the area. That's a dried up fountain in the beginning of the front of the temple. Mm-hmm. And there's this rock that healing waters have flowed over so long that it has the power to cure diseases. Mm-hmm. And her mom is upset and sick and dying, so you have to go get this life rock.
Her husband has gone into the mines after it.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Indeed. And so you have to go get the life rock, which is in the mines, which is the first kind of big dungeon you have. And it's hard. Like, there's a sign outside that says, caution poison.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, shit.
They're serious.
And poison is serious business in this game, at least initially.
Yeah. You have so little HP, and the screen flashes in multicolors. And sometimes it's hard to notice a slime until you've already walked over it and it's attacking you. But you have
which I really liked. Like, that would be a defense mechanism of the creature.
Yep.
Like, I thought that was really badass.
Yeah, if you did not have like a defined mass and like volume, you would totally do that, right?
Yep. Yep.
But getting poisoned will seriously fuck your shit. There's a little area behind the cabin with the family where you can get some antidotes. But it's like, for me, it wasn't nearly enough.
I ended up buying a lot of them.
Yeah.
For this section. Mm-hmm. So you're heading, or go ahead.
And right inside the mine too, there's a little like life water fountain There's a little vitamin water fountain. But it's limited.
Really, it's just soda. You shouldn't think that vitamin water is going to heal you.
No,
it's essentially just sugar.
No, we're not making a medical claim by calling it vitamin water. Says 50 Cent and Coke. Yeah.
So that'll heal you, and it's the healing thing you're going to have, your renewable healing resource for quite a while.
It's not renewable; it goes away after a certain number of uses.
How many? Like, I never got to the end of it. I thought it was...
I think I just suck at video games. I think it's like, it was enough that I hadn't gotten through the mines by the time it happened.
Is it 3 or 30? Like, just a ballpark?
Probably closer to like 15. Like, I would say somewhere between 10 and 20. Okay. And I was being overly cautious too, so...
I probably used it like 5 or 6 times. Yeah. But didn't end up, it didn't run dry for me. But that's interesting. They would do that. Because I was expecting to have my life healed my save too.
Oh, yeah.
And that never happened.
Nope.
So, nope.
Yeah.
It is possible to save yourself into oblivion in this game. So, old game rules apply, multiple saves.
Yep. For sure. Also, this is your introduction to flying enemies. Bats can go straight to hell. I don't care what Meatloaf says.
Yeah, bats are hard to kill. Everything that flies is hard to kill, though. Those fucking wasps later on, like, eventually, like, this thing will never hit me, but God, I can't really hit it. I'm like, I have these things defensively figured out, but get my fucking, range of view.
Yeah.
Bats suck.
Yep. Also, when you get down towards the bottom, there's the corpse mushroom, which is super creepy. I can only assume that is the deceased husband.
Yeah, which I really like.
Yeah.
That's badass. And then everybody meets another Dark Souls thing. We didn't really reference it, but everybody has a sad ending in this game. Nobody works out well. We have to talk about something, though, that's kind of elemental to the gameplay, and the bats reminded me of it. When you get hit, it scrambles your controls for a second.
Does it?
Kind of like, you lose control. Yeah, like it doesn't necessarily scramble it, but your controls become unresponsive. Like they get, not necessarily scrambled, but I would be walking forward, and a bat would hit me and I would go to the left. And it becomes a bigger deal, like some kind of bridge areas and stairs later. But I've fallen off of ledges because I've gotten hit and then been unable to control myself.
That sounds weirdly Castlevania-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like you lose control. That is the penalty to being hit by anything. And there's no poise, obviously, or anything like that. Like, you're never going to, make your way through something like that. So it makes combat really strange. Like, it is not too easy for something to corner you and just kind of slam jam your health, but it's possible to end up in that kind of situation.
Right.
Especially like later, I was trying to get past this flaming turret thing, and I just couldn't do it because it would lock my controls. Yeah, getting hit by it. So
yeah. And for as intentional as the game is, having a disruption to that is a real problem, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
indeed.
Speaking of people without happy ends, you meet this little miner who was down there mining for life stones, trying to work off a debt, which is real sad.
Yep, and just dies.
Yep, you just come back to him, and there's a blood stain, and his pickaxe is there. Yep. I think there's also some upgrade material. No, I forget where you find the pickaxe. It's like
you
up
can't
in the
pick
tunnels.
That one up. It's on a shelf down by the zombies.
Oh yeah, like behind all these signs. Like we're not going to go into it step by step, but they're really sign happy in this mine.
Yeah.
Oh, and there are zombies, and this is your first real humanoid enemy that also barfs.
A pro tip, just like the ones from Phantasy Star 1, pro tip for these zombies is that they will give you more gold than anything in the game. And they're not that hard. Like, if you wanted to farm for money, this would be where to do it.
Huh.
So they give you something like 80 gold, which won't be matched for a long time.
Wow. I guess I never really noticed the pattern on that. Huh. But yeah, you're working your way around here. I had this really awesome death to a gigantic swarm of bats in one of the, like, a dead-end cavern after I got the pickaxe. I've got all of my video from the play session recorded, actually, and I'm slowly compiling it into some kind of like death compilation. They taper off like roughly after this episode, but still it would be funny to just see somebody die to a bunch of bats, and before I realized I'm fucked, like, and by watching I'm fucked. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
We'll put that up on the site. For sure. You get the Rock of Life from here, and you make your way out. You get the Fire Crystal, which is your first magic.
Yeah.
I think theoretically you could have got the wind crystal if you just farmed forever, but you're not awful, so you don't do that.
Yeah, and like magic isn't really usable without the ring of clarity or the wristband of clarity, the bangle of clarity.
Yeah, the bracelet of clarity. You get that soon, though. I remember getting that surprisingly early.
You really only have to get the pickaxe to get it.
Yeah, because it was still tempting to sell it to David Bunch.
Well, because you get like 30,000 gold.
75,000 gold. But I'm really glad I didn't do that.
Yeah.
You would be forgiven for doing it because it doesn't clearly explain what it does in any capacity. Like the item description for it doesn't. It says like adds to magic at the cost of mysticism, or like it takes one thing that means the other thing and uses them both in a sentence.
Yeah.
And what it means is that it will lower your magic stat. Like I think if you're wearing it when you level up or you use a magic crystal that increases your magic stat, it won't have as high an effect.
Right.
But it quadruples your MP.
Which makes it so you can ever cast spells.
So you can cast spells with impunity. And there are lots of enemies I ended up cheesing in this game because I could do magic, and I wouldn't have made it without the Bracelet of Clarity. Like, there are people who do the same way with the Souls games. People do crazy challenge runs of this.
Yeah.
I guess a fist-only run is surprisingly viable.
Really?
Because once it starts leveling up, it does a lot of damage.
Oh, yeah, because like your weapons level up just like your spells do. And like if you're using your fist, you're using it for the full game. So you level it up to like a real, I could see that.
So I guess that's a pretty good way to play. But the so people do weird challenge runs, including not doing the Clarity Bracelet, but it's kind of the equivalent of the Cling Ring or the Ring of Favor and Protection. It's kind of like a noob weapon that's included early in the game that you couldn't be blamed for using for the whole thing, especially on your first time.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and we already explained, magic, all of these crystals that you find will give you a spell. There are different elements that you can use, and the spells kind of progress up. You have support spells and attack spells, and attack spells get little knock-on effects with them, so as you use them. And so do support spells. So like Earth Heal, which is the most useful spell in the game, at its max level will enchant your weapon with a slow effect, which is real powerful.
Yeah. And God help you if you don't find Earth Heal. Again, just talking about things I don't know if I can't remember exactly where you find it, and we'll get to it. But if it's something you could miss, that's real rough.
Yeah.
So you have this, and you have the fire. So you can go back to the town. And did you go to the area behind the town, or the little area in the boarded up shack at the back half of the town that was boarded up because there's a demonic tree in the backyard?
Oh, that's where you get the Clarity Bracelet.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Yes,
you do get it right.
The crazy demon ent. Yeah,
I love it. Like, because I went out and I just like it didn't, and the doors close on their own, and they open towards you, no matter which way you're going to them from. It seems like. So I went out into the backyard, saw there was a big demon tree. It started attacking me. Tried to go back in, and the door pushed me back, rather than just opening forward for me, and died to this demon tree the first time I fought him. But I love the idea of them boarding up a house because there's a demon tree in the backyard. Like, well, let's just move on. Yeah. It's probably the same people who live in the other house.
Yeah, like they just built another house out of the weaker demon trees that they could fell.
It's his house now. If you want to live there, you have to pay him demon rent.
Just demon squatters' rights are just so unfavorable.
Well, demon law is
it's more complicated than most people think, right?
Yeah, it's like maritime law.
or bird law. That's what I thought you were referencing was bird law. But yeah, that's pretty great. And it comes out of nowhere, too. Like, just the amount of times that you go for a chest and then something comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yep. Refreshing. So you grab that Clarity Bracelet, which you'll leave for leave on for the entire game.
Yep.
Every moment. The big thing with the fire spell is that you can blast off the spider webs and explore further into that temple. But while you're here, you should also get the crystal vial from the thief who's upstairs.
Yeah. There's another life gem or life rock in the mines that's kind of hidden. So, and it's weird because it comes across as kind of a moral choice at the beginning, which is like, do you give the life rock to the thief, or do you give it to the sick mom? Giving it to the sick mom will let you progress. Giving it to the thief gives you this item that won't be useful for another 2 hours of gameplay. And also you have to go back in and find this other life rock, you dummy.
Yeah, it's not really a moral choice.
Right.
Just do both. But yeah, you get a vial, you don't know what it does.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. I like it. I like the way that mechanic mirrors Estus flasks is really cool. Like you can kind of see how they got the idea for that. Like, I can fill everything up and I have a limited number of heals before I have to go back to a central location. So,
yeah. But you proceed further into the temple, and this has been overtaken by spiders. So if Skyrim bothered you, this might not be the game for you.
These spiders are way less scary than Skyrim spiders.
Yeah. They don't have as many visible eyes.
This is one of the one of the first mods for Skyrim.
Was just like people who couldn't handle bears.
Yep. Yeah. It's very weird to me. Like, you just can't handle it. Like, I can't play this game the same way, like, I can't play Outlast. People couldn't play just because of those cartoon spiders. Like,
No, Outlast for me is one of the most compelling reasons to get, like, a PC.
I want to play it really bad, but it's already, like, it's so good at setting it, like, knowing the genre. I'm anticipating the ways it's going to scare me, and I can't do it. Like, it is all about taking away your vision. So, like, one of the mechanics they introduced really early on is squeezing into tight spaces. And when you do, if I squeeze between a wall, I'm facing the wall. And then your camera just really slowly swings back towards facing. And I just know something's going to be there at some point and make me scream like a girl. And then I have to try to desperately squeeze back through. And I'm like, nope, I've got like 10 minutes in it. I've picked it up 3 times. It's doing a really good job of making me anticipate not being able to play it.
Yeah.
So, anywho.
Anyway, Outlast is another first-person scary game. This game can get scary too, but not quite yet.
Not like that.
Yeah. But
so
go ahead.
Or I was going to say, so you run into an NPC down here he fled the expedition. He's another deserter. And he's talking about his friends who have been possessed by monsters, which is going to come up.
Yeah.
And he is terrified. His friend might be a monster, and he pretty much just wants to die.
Yeah.
And he'll get his wish.
You can oblige him. This is one of the only NPCs that you can kill without any kind of repercussion to it, because he will die later. He'll turn into a zombie. The whole zombification thing, like by those weird bugs that infect somebody, pretty cool, like in a let's say Chaos Servants kind of way, and B also I forget what B was. Continue.
That Star Trek Next Generation episode with an ambassador who's taken over by the bug.
Oh yeah, maybe.
You know the one I'm talking about? It's a real famous like GIF, because when they shoot him, his head becomes a really obvious fake head and blows up. It's like super bad effects. But it's kind of weird. These bugs that are taking over people's brains. Like I kind of forgot about that a couple hours after this in the game because it stops coming up.
Right.
And just okay, there's brain bugs, but there's not really a big payoff for it.
Right.
Unless I'm missing something.
Maybe you have one of those, and that's why you don't have a body.
That could be.
Yeah.
Everyone who's listening to this only knows me as a disembodied voice anyway, so this could be a conversation Cole's having with himself. He records my voice, and then he improvises his reactions to it.
Exactly.
So,
No, but I'm sorry. I mean, exactly, Gary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Phew. Sold it. Yeah. But this is another one of those cases where so in picking which of the Yahoo names to give to people, they kind of went like appropriate. So I guess Lee Maynard was really outspoken about his fear of spiders, and so they put him right outside the spider room, having just watched his friend die of spiders, which kind of seems like a dick move. Yeah, absolutely. But how amazing would it be if, like, this was the company that localized it, was from, and they had this huge, they have a really great community manager. I can't remember the community manager, and everything. And then like people from the Souls community got put in, things like that. Like it would ruin Souls. But the idea of like, I just want us to be NPCs in a game. Yeah. That's all I'm getting at. I'll stop disclaiming it and just get right to the end thing that I'm trying to get to. That'd be awesome. Which is like, there's a scholar named Vati, Ross and a field of butter. What? No. I don't even know. Something like that. This is some kind of. I'm sorry that you came out worse in the Middle Ages. Did you say field of butter rot? No, not rot. Okay. No, I did.
Okay.
No, they're just like you pick up a stone in Dark Souls 2, and it acts like some kind of like weird communicator, and there are two voices, and you meet them like in a tower late in the game, and they're demonic. They're agents of the demons feeding you misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Cut and prints. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, spoilers. We're in Dark Souls 2.
Oh man. But
Anyway.
but yeah, there's a big spider. Did we say that?
No, we have not talked about it.
No.
There's a boss.
Yeah.
And there aren't tons of boss fights in this game. Like there's a good double handful.
Yeah.
But,
there's a good double handful, and they're very weirdly paced. So like it was 8 hours by the time I got to this thing.
Yep. And none of the boss fights are good.
No.
Like in the way that is a huge highlight of the Souls games.
Mm-hmm.
The boss fights are not particularly good. In fact, I will go as far as say none of them are good.
Right.
Like I don't like any of them.
I like the Dark Magician. He's pretty good.
I liked him. I like the concept of him. Mm-hmm. Like I just,
the experience of fighting him was balls. But
yeah. Like, and there were a couple of bosses like I couldn't fight. Like I had to cheese because they were just too. Like, it was too tough for me. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but that fire demon, like I could not fight him.
Right.
I just ended up cheesing him with arrows. So,
yeah.
But yeah, this guy, you just end up circle strafing around him.
Pretty much. And he'll throw he'll shot web at you in order to slow you down and make that less effective. But you have your fire spell, and that is your distance attack right now. And it does a lot of damage to him, even unupgraded, really. So,
yep. So you kill him and you get like a crest or a key or something like that.
Yeah, something. So that's just the way that you progress. Key enemies have key stones or stones of passage or whatever they are. They're like these crests that you affix inside of a door in order to progress. Yep.
So you head down from this way, and you can go to the right, which is the next area you're supposed to go to. But I like how you can go forward if you want to.
Yeah.
And head into the city gates, I guess, this little like fortress outside, which is really hard at this point.
Yeah.
So it's doing that Dark Souls meat wall.
And like it signposts in a really weird way, or a very obvious way, weirdly obvious way for this kind of game, which is there are arrows flying, and there are also dead bodies. I wonder, I'm dead. Shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
But instead you should go to the right.
Yeah.
And head down to the catacombs.
The miner's graveyard, which is they send so many people in to mine for these life stones, and so many of them died in collapses that they had to give them a dedicated graveyard.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is, boy, if you like skeletons.
This is skeletastic.
Yeah, no.
Like so many skeletons. There's some rooms that are just full of graves, and then just you go through and just skeleton after skeleton.
Yeah, it's the Scapulus capital.
Yeah. Yep. it is. Yep.
Sorry,
it's that.
There's no response to it.
It's a peaceful land of skeletons attacked by fighter helicopter. Whatever that thing is.
What?
Yeah, and near the fire helicopter. You ever seen that video?
No.
Peaceful skeleton village attacked by. Oh, I'll put it in the show notes, and after we get done recording, you have to watch it.
Okay.
It's so good.
Uh-huh.
It's so good.
Okay.
So, I'm surprised with it as being such a Skele fan.
Oh yeah. No. The field of skeleton journalism is it's so booming right now. I can't expect to be kept on top of it all.
Can't keep. You got to set up that YouTube alert for skeleton.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, but this is kind of a cool area. The thing that bothers me about it is that there are so many areas in this game that are just nondescript mausoleum.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in this area and the next big mausoleum.
Yeah.
Like, this is, I spent surprisingly long amount of time here. When you don't do that much, like you're essentially just looking for two key things, like icons to get through an area, but I just spent so fucking long here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not hard, really. It's just time consuming.
It's kind of a big uptick in the variety of enemies that it throws at you. So there are skeleton archers here. And the tactics of the skeleton warriors are a little bit tougher than the zombies. They're a little bit more wily. They move more quickly, and so I find myself dying to regular enemies a lot here.
Until you at least get a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
What I learned here, combat wise, was you're not so much trying to flank an enemy or circle strafe them, but to hit them first. Like this is where stun came really into effect. Like instead of trying to get around the side of this guy, I should attack him and back up. And like most of the time I'll stagger him for a second.
Yeah, and if you hadn't before this point learned the timing of your weapon and how important that was, like learning that stun lock mechanic will make you appreciate actually getting to know a weapon's quote unquote moveset, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. There's
a jail in there too. Why is there a jail in this?
I don't know.
Graveyard. Yeah. Anyway.
It's where you put the corpses of criminals.
Yeah.
In life as in death,
bad skeletons.
Yes. There's no such thing as a bad skeleton, just one that's misunderstood.
Yeah. Exactly. Just bad parents of skeletons.
Yeah. Yeah. You see Mista Fopa? I like to think his first name is Mista.
Yeah. Like hanging with Mr. Fupa.
Yeah, no. Mr. Fupa is different.
Yeah, that's Mrs. Fupa to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, this is a real weird character.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he just runs a poison well. He runs the local poison emporium.
Yeah, no. So did you see outside of work today there's that little girl selling poison?
Yeah.
Poison. Oh man, that is a super deep cut. If you recognize that, then you are immediately part of my Cool Kids Club.
Join the Cool Kids Ross Club.
Yeah. I'll text it to you afterwards.
Thank you. I'm writing down right now. Ask Cole about thing for a show note.
Okay, cool. All right. But yeah, he's important because he provides you with the keystones that you need to get into this crypt that has probably the most skeletons per square foot of anything outside of the Dark Souls catacombs.
Or until an area later that's literally like an awesome skeleton archery range that comes in the Elf Tomb. But this is that, it's going to be increasing amounts of skeletons as you go. But this is the first like shock and awe, like
asymptotic skeletons.
Yeah. Yeah. So you do that, and you have to release these rocks on the door that you get these things from to fill up the fountain.
Yeah. So you get the icon of healing. That's something that happens in most of these areas. You're looking for kind of this elemental amulet kind of thing that you can place in order to kind of manipulate the environment. And in this case, you are reviving the healing well, which gives you the ability to, kind of get geared up, right? Like health is no longer dependent on you raising enough gold to go buy healing herbs from David Bunch.
Right. You have one vial.
Yeah.
That you can only drink it once. But it will fully heal you, and you'll get more vials as the game goes.
Yeah,
which I didn't realize at first. I thought I was like, I just have to choose, but
no, it's like getting bottles in.
It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
And in Zelda. So.
Yeah, and further exploration down here puts you like right at the back of David Bunch's shop, so you can kind of see what David Bunch was talking about. When he was saying, that old man, he made so much trouble, I had to board up, blah, blah, blah. Like, Mr. Fupa went back there and
the poison
made a mess.
Poison merchant.
Yeah.
And then he fucked everything up.
Poison. Yeah. By this point, you're probably going to be strong enough to survive the fall down the well. All that I have on my notes is that I did it. I don't remember why. You
get a spell, and I think you get a piece of equipment.
Yeah. You get the bone hands, which just is one of the more trade-off-y sets of armor.
Yeah, I never used them because I could tell they were cursed.
Yeah,
but I never actually
they were cursed.
Yeah, exactly. I could tell because I can read.
Yeah.
But what do they do?
I never discerned it, honestly.
I think if I actually, I know this. That was a rhetorical question. Well, what do they do, Cole? Well, I'll tell you. No, I just remembered. They you can't heal through means, but you heal by killing enemies.
Oh,
so you can't heal yourself with herbs, but you regenerate when you kill bad guys. So, interesting, but I didn't end up using them, even though they have pretty good stats. Yeah. I thought I wouldn't be able to take them off. That's why I didn't put them on.
Okay.
And none of it's kind of interestingly, that's how D&D cursed equipment works.
Yeah.
None of the cursed equipment works that way. They all have huge downsides, but you can take them off whenever you want.
Yeah.
So and there's some of it that's actually worth using a little bit later on in the game.
I remember I died a lot at the bottom of this, both to the piranhas and also from trying to get to the top. Without realizing that I could use either my crystal vial or my just healing herbs to get my health back up to give me more time to get to the top. But yeah, there's just so many deaths trying to do that little lock puzzle at the bottom.
Yeah. It's you're underwater at this point, and you don't swim. You just sink because you're wearing armor, and you drown super quick. Like think about this, ludonarrative dissonance of you're drowning, so you're constantly cramming herbs into your mouth so you don't drown, like all the way. Like it's pretty goofy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get an item that ameliorates drowning, but it doesn't come till near the end of the game.
Oh yeah, so like in the last third, at least, right? Yeah. This is also your first exposure to the cazadors, I guess.
Yeah.
They don't poison you, but there's wasps that shoot spells at you, and they're real sons of bitches.
Yep, they're tough.
Yeah,
tough enemies. Yep. So you go there, you're going to go back upstairs. You're going to go the other way instead of going to the catacombs into that kind of fortress.
Yeah.
And you're a little bit stronger now at this point. There's a hail of arrows in front of you, but you can go right or left and kind of explore this area. And the big thing, there are zombie soldiers here with the weird little brain bugs.
Yeah.
Are kind of the big enemy here.
It's real subtle too, because like once you kill them, you see this little thing scurry away. I wasn't sure until the fourth or fifth one. They're like, yeah, that's totally a thing that was happening, which is creepy. That's horrifying.
It's super creepy. Yep. I kept trying to kill them. Like when I got a bow and arrow, I kept trying to kill them, but that's not how bow and arrows work. It's not that quick.
Yeah.
So you head through this area. I love this section with the guardian golems and the binding crowns. Like this was really fun. This was a fun puzzle and tricky for me to figure out, what kind of order I need to do this and get out in time.
They're scary, and it's very much an example of you need to outsmart the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they do the thing, they show you, I mean, they're really clearly telegraphing it, but, no hint pops up. And you see a guardian golem dead the first time, and it has an arrow in its eye socket.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's how I kill these things. Arrows to the eye. Got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty cool puzzle, pretty terrifying once you pull that binding crown off and hear the thump, 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 thump,
yeah.
In order to get that bow and arrow, you have to venture a little bit into the center tower itself, which is pretty majestic. There are wyverns flying around, which will kill you.
Yep, and you should just run past.
Yeah.
Like, don't try to kill the wyverns.
I don't think I've ever killed one of them, actually.
No, I killed some of them in the foundry later, but I never killed the ones here. Mm-hmm. And it's not worth it. Just run past. They're environmental hazards.
Yeah. You find an NPC kind of hidden in one of the side passages here. Ramirez, who he's so grateful that you save him from all of the skeletons, that he gives you a bow, which ends up being incredibly useful.
Yeah, is this the guy? This is the guy surrounded by the exploding barrels.
Yeah,
yeah. What an idiot!
That's a huge fuck you.
Yeah, well, and a huge fuck me. Like, why? I want to be safe. I'm going to surround myself with doom barrels, that blow up at the merest provocation. At first, I thought at that point, like, oh shit, now barrels will blow up, and some of them are going to blow up, but they're smaller.
Yeah,
the ones that explode, and it took me a little while to figure that out.
No, once I got protect myself from fire, I would cast fire resistance before I would attack any given barrel, which was a huge waste of mana. But yeah.
It took me a long time. I was doing the same thing, or I would attack it and back away, and usually end up taking some damage. But it took me a little while.
But you get the bow, and you can take one of those golems out, which gets you the pass key or whatever, the stone of put that bridge down.
Yeah, the bridge stone, which is infuriating because one of the bridges is broken. It's not just up, but you can't tell from the side that you're on.
Right.
So you keep trying to put the pass key in it, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't give you like a confirmation thing that says, no, you can't do this here. It just makes it look like you didn't aim it right.
Yep, and aiming it is so finicky. Like here's a pro tip is to take your keystone and bind it to your select button. You have like one mappable key for a quick use item, and usually you want to have that on a healing thing or a healing spell. But you do it with the keystone, and then you just kind of cram, just spam it while looking around, and eventually you'll get the spot. But
yeah,
I spent a long time trying to do it on this broken bridge without realizing it was broken, and that was frustrating.
Yeah. But now that we're in the central tower, we have achieved our goal for this episode.
Indeed. Yeah,
and
so
had some fun while we did it.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. So we're going to pretty much just call it and continue pick up next week. So there's no break between episodes like there usually is with a supplementary episode. We're doing these a little bit weirdly like we did the Berserk ones. So we'll just see you in a week to talk about the actual, the kind of the city itself, the tower.
Yeah.
And going into the forest and a whole bunch of cool stuff.
Definitely.
The elemental suite. So.
It sounds like some kind of weird Wagner composition.
Yeah, like the planets.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Vivaldi.
So what can people do in the meantime?
Well, we really enjoy it when you go to iTunes and leave us a rating or review. Additionally, I can't say if it's going to be by the time this episode comes up, but here pretty soon, the entire Duckfeed network is going on to SoundCloud as kind of a supplementary way to share and comment on stuff. Because that is a popular thing. So this show should be on there, and you should be able to do nice embeds and stuff. So that's kind of a new vector to listen to the show if you enjoy listening to things on SoundCloud.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your effort to do that. Cool.
Yeah.
You should go to duckfeed.tv /tipjar and use the Amazon link and buy the things we have for sale, some premium episodes, things like that.
Yeah.
That is well worth your time. And listen to our other shows.
Definitely. Abject Suffering could use some love.
Mm-hmm.
Not like it's doing bad or anything, but just I really like that show.
Yeah.
And I think you would like it too. Yep.
Yep. And then watch out for fireballs. At the time this comes out, our next episode is about Masters of Orion 2. That's why I mentioned it earlier, because it's on my mind. There's check out that show. It is kind of similar to this. Like these Kingsfield episodes are a little bit zoomed out compared to our Dark Souls stuff.
Pretty wonky.
A little closer to our watch out for fireball stuff. So if you like this, you'll like that.
Yeah. And since we're on the video game tip, why don't you check it out, Comrade?
Yeah, it's an indie game show with me and Nick Glauber and occasional guest. It's real short, 2 indie games per show, just telling you what's neat about them. Yeah. The long-awaited return of those damn Ross kids is upon us.
It's totally out.
I said the return is upon us.
Is upon us. Okay.
Yeah, or it has returned, I guess. The return has happened.
Yes,
is what I meant.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
a couple episodes in the bank there. You should check that out. That is Cole's brother making fun of Cole, and. Is he? I haven't gotten a chance. I haven't gotten a chance to catch up on the new ones yet. Has he mellowed out at all, or is he like his recent, the life stuff that causes hiatuses?
Yeah.
While being totally oblique, has it made him fiercer, or mellowed him out vis-a-vis
taking his venom out on me?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's the tenor has gotten a little bit more introspective, I think. But not so much like him, but I think that we're allowing ourselves to marinate a little bit more. Without giving away too much of the stuff that happens in the most recent ones. But I would say that in terms of berating me, it's become more like fundamental to my character, such as like, Cole, when I ask you about something to explain something, I immediately wish that I asked you that I didn't ask you to do that, because Cole, you're insufferable, which makes me feel fantastic. So if you want a weekly roast of me that somehow I endorse and participate in.
Now it just sounds like a reverse therapy.
We're here to tear things down, not build them up.
They're breaking you down to put you in a cult. Let's break down his sense of self so we can rebuild him as a Manchurian candidate.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. I would recommend you check it out because the new episodes are real doozies.
Yeah. And you get to hear Cole get dressed down.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Yeah, I don't know why we're not apologizing for it. We're selling it. Exactly. And then you should also listen to The Level, which is a roundtable video game discussion show that Cole does with some college buddies of his, and it covers kind of the gamut of things, news and what you play in, and kind of thoughts and generalities with a heavy listener participation portion to it, and it's a lot of fun. It's very good.
Yeah. So listen to it, but listen to it now. Before Dennis continues to ruin it by having kids and shit.
Yeah.
He knows that I don't mean that. That's my way of announcing to people that somebody on the network is having a kid. That's holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Just kind of in terms of action items, go ahead and send us any thoughts that you have on Kingsfield 4. If you have any experiences with it, we're kind of gathering them up, and we'll bunch them towards the end. But we're very much receptive to those.
They will get read.
Duckfeed.tv /contact.
Indeed. So until next time, what can they watch out for, Cole?
They watch out for brain bugs?
Yeah, there we go. So watch out for brain bugs.
So the world might be darkened.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So the world might be darkened.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon